Natasha, and I am an Associate Professor at the University of Western Australia. Now, I'm very often wearing colourful clothes like these. And so when I go into the scientific faculty rooms, the other academics often mistake me for a mature-age student who somehow stumbled through the art supply department and gotten really lost. Now, it is a bit upsetting. I've worked really hard to learn how to dress myself like a children's entertainer. And I'm also a geographer, so we're the map people. We don't get lost. I mean, not that often anyway. So I'm a geographer and I'm also an artist, and this makes me a little bit of a confusing kind of scientist. I like to call myself a social scientist. Not really that great at taking selfies, but I'm still a social scientist. What this means is that I am a little bit less scared of people than my husband, who is an experimental physicist. Being heckled by my family. Who works in space lasers. This is definitely not a social science. So today I'm going to tell you a little bit about my research, which some of the hardcore physicists in the audience might find to be a little woo-woo. Because what I do is I use art to get people to communicate their thoughts about nature with me. I'll show you how this works. I run these workshops. They're a bit like a paint and sip, except we have to remove all the fun. The red wine is gone, red tape, and we've got to replace Rebecca with an inconspicuous tape recorder. And the goal of these workshops is to get people to create a piece of art that can help communicate with decision makers what people would like to see in the future, particularly around our coasts, which are vulnerable to sea level rise, erosion, and many other things. So I'll show you how this works. Meet Agnes. Agnes likes the beach. Agnes has a lot to say. Agnes came to one of our workshops to tell us what she has to say using art. Now you might see this and think, Agnes really needs to just step away from the crayons for a bit. But what I see is how much Agnes loves the beach and that she wants to see trees planted for shade. And I know this because I interview her afterwards. So as a social scientist, I'm really interested in understanding what people think. I'm the type of scientist that's likely to come at you with a giant piece of paper and ask you to please tell me some interesting things about your life. Now, over the years, I've found that if I maybe give people a chance to sit down, relax, have some nice food, maybe a paintbrush or so, they're much more likely to relax and open up to me. So this arty method that we've been using, look, this has got absolutely nothing to do with my midlife crisis. And it's definitely not overcompensating after my immigrant Polish family banned me from studying fine art because of job security. It's my actual family. So instead of fine art, I studied the very lucrative career of geography because I wanted to save the planet. So as we all know, you might not know that geography is actually a career, but it is a career. You basically travel the world having huge global adventures all the time. This was me just last week in Antarctica. So what geography is really all about is understanding the complex relationship that people have with the natural world. So pay attention, I've spent a lot of time on this graphic to explain how this actually works. On the bottom, you can see time, going from the primordial ooze when the first bacteria emerged from the ocean up until the present day. And up here, you can see how well is life going on Earth. Pretty well, down to not so great. So things were going along pretty well until recently, when, I'm sure you've guessed this by now, the arrival of anthropogenic space lasers. And things have just gone downhill from there. Anyway, the fact is that people aren't going anywhere. So what we need to do is figure out how we can live together on planet Earth a bit more lightly, adapt to climate change, and have places around the coast that are being adapted and protected from erosion and flooding. So we have less of this kind of planning and more of this kind of scenario at the coast. Again, an actual photo of my actual family relaxing and being very happy and calm at the coast. So when we want to know how people think and what they think about a certain thing, what social scientists often do is to have some kind of survey, like an online survey or a phone survey, which we all love answering. Now, here are some actual excuses I have personally given to get out of doing these kinds of surveys. Sorry, I'm very busy putting my sunscreen on. Trust me, this can take me quite a while. Sorry, I'm very busy being a geographer counting penguins. Or my favourite, I'm sorry, I'm very busy saving the planet from the space laser people. Now, if you do actually decide to respond to that survey about how's the government doing today, you might just go straight into rage mode. So just have a thought about the people who have to listen to your diatribe about the 3-bin system and how it's not working particularly well. They're smiling on the outside, but I'm pretty sure they're crying on the inside. Now, this doesn't really help anyone, so we've come up with a workaround in our research. Instead of spilling your guts, try filling your guts. Come to one of our workshops, do some art and have something to eat. Throw some paint around, not a chair. And what we found through this research is that by combining science with art, people are much more likely to focus on happy memories and solutions for the future rather than just being really cranky all the time. So what we do is we invite people to come along, we give them free rein of the scissors, the glue and lots of croissants, and they produce some art for us, like this one, which tells us what they really value about the coast. We give this information to landscape architects who are very skilled at designing things that show us what we want to see at the coast. Like this vision, for example, you can see Agnes's trees have made it into this one. And then we can tell everyone what we've learned and get some feedback. So what have we learned from doing this kind of research? Well, first of all, art gives people the freedom to express exactly what it is they want to say. There are really diverse views about what people want to see at the coast. Just like there are very diverse views about how to paint a really beautiful portrait. We've also learned that people like to have time to tell those stories. The act of sitting around and sharing with other people gives people a very welcome break from their busy lives, and they enjoy doing that. We've also learned that although we live in a city, people still think of the coast as a very wild place. And that is really important to their mental and physical health and well-being. So we want to try and retain some of those elements of wildness in our designs for future public spaces. Now, probably the giant green bag at Sculptures by the Sea wasn't quite the right type of wild, but it was still very popular. And finally, probably the most surprising thing that we found is that by sitting and engaging in creative activities, people have a chance to feel calm, connected and centred. They're much more likely to have a positive and more hopeful view of the future. So let's just have a think about what this kind of approach could have done for, say, Edward Munch. Much better. Or let's look at Hokusai's The Great Wave of Kanagawa, a slightly pessimistic view of sea level rise. It's just a matter of perspective. And adding a bit of fun. Finally, Sandro Botticelli, The Birth of Venus. Now, look, this one is quite a hopeful and beautiful view of a serene future at the coast, but there's always room for improvement. So perhaps everybody should think about putting some more art and creativity into your science. If you're not getting the outcomes that you want, maybe just add some crayons. Agnes loved it. You might come up with the perfect solution. So, just in case you are interested in finding out more about this research and understanding how it all fits together, in a frankly unbelievable coincidence, our exhibition opens tomorrow morning. It's been a very big weekend. We have left the tape recorders at home, the wine will be flowing for opening night, and you'll be able to find me. I'll be the mature age student entertaining the children in the corner. Thank you very much.